We're back, everybody. How's it going? It's the 312 Show, Season 2, Episode 3, and I'm joined by two of the greatest gentlemen in the entire universe. In no particular order of greatness.
Thank you.
We've got my co-host, Manny Picasso, is here, and he is looking extra swole these days. Big Poppy is stepping up to the plate. I missed that game, man. I gotta get back to playing that. It's been a while. And then, of course, over here on, was it this side on the screen here, I have Edward Auyang joining us, who is I'd say the nomadic X-Wing player. I see him everywhere. You take your tradition, what is it, your classic selfies with everybody. Like, I can always count on you to be there and take photos with the community. So thank you for making the time. It's at your office to join us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And to everybody that is starting to tune in, I hope you guys have had a great week. I know we have been out for a bit. I have had, just a lot going on in my life, including a memorial service for my grandfather who passed away a couple months ago. So I was just out this past weekend, and we're kicking things back up. A lot of stuff to talk about and announce, including our future interview with Atomic Mass Games. So that's right, we're in the big leagues now. We were a AAA team for a while. Now we're the expansion team. 312 is coming for you. We might have the 30th round pick and take a few years to be competitive, but we're coming for you guys. So I'll have more info on that soon. But yeah, without further ado, let's head into our show today. We've got our full list of topics, including our little tidbit about Chicago. So let's see. We'll roll on to random Chicago here. And then if I remember how my stream deck works, I have the animation for it right here. There it is. All right. Some of you guys might know that besides 100 teenagers stomping on cars this past weekend, there are other things that Chicago is known for. And one of them is crime. That's a fun one, right? Crime and gangs, and this is all the mafia, all old stuff. There's no crime in any city anymore. Not here in America. You wouldn't have anything like that. But you all know of Al Capone. I'm sure you've heard of. I think some people. That's where they got the nickname Scarface. It's because of Al Capone. Yep. So we're gonna just talk a little bit about Al Capone. What do you guys know about him besides the fact that he was like a very famous gangster? Do you know anything else about him?
Arrested on tax fraud. Man, okay, that's probably the biggest thing I know about it. But the St. Valentine's Day massacre.
Yeah.
And yeah, just in general, not a great guy, but also actually that's. The people in Chicago did like him.
Maybe he was a great guy.
But no, he was still problematic to say the least.
Manny endorses the mob.
I don't know how you took that from my statement, but yeah, sure.
I'm gonna make this a YouTube short and just like make that part where it's just like Manny endorses the mob.
Yeah, they did. Let's bring back Gaiden Warfare. Let's go. On the streets.
Edward, do you know anything about him?
Well,
besides what he just said?
I remember he was actually a surprisingly smaller statured individual. I think a lot of people, when they first hear Al Capone, think that he's this, huge figure, but he was actually a little bit on the smaller side stature-wise.
Also pretty fat, right?
He was a little pudgy. You look at this picture, that I have pulled up on the stream here.
But had a pretty commanding presence.
Yeah, he's got that face for crime too.
Yeah. And I think he was actually relatively liked by the community. I mean, he tried to stay, back in the era of honorable gangsterism, if you will, tried to keep it amongst the players involved and tried to keep relatively innocent people out of it, though, there would be collateral damage every now and then.
Yeah. You wouldn't mess with them. The cops didn't even want to touch them. So
right.
We'll do a little breakdown of his history, just because let's take a moment to learn here. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not talking about critical race theory. We're talking about Al Capone. So, born of an immigrant family in Brooklyn, New York, in January of 1899, Al Capone quit school after the 6th grade and associated with a notorious street gang. So, even at a very young age, he was in gangs, becoming accepted as a member. About 1920, Capone joined Toro's, one of the street gang members that he held up with at a young age in Chicago, where he had become an influential lieutenant in the, what? That's crazy. In the Colosimo Mob. These are all names that I do not know about the other mobs. Like, I don't know about this stuff. So the racket spawned by enactments of an prohibition amendment, illegal brewing. Yeah, that's where the mob really thrived, was during Prohibition. He basically ran the city during Prohibition. So in 1925, Al Capone became boss when Torrio was seriously wounded in an assassination attempt, surrendered control, and retired in Brooklyn. And Capone had built a fearsome reputation in the ruthless gang rivalries of this period, struggling to acquire and retain racketeering rights to several areas of Chicago. That reputation grew as rival gangs were eliminated or nullified. Well, we nullified them. And the suburb of Cicero became, in effect, a fiefdom of the Capone mob. That's good stuff. So also Al Capone, if those of you that, have heard of Alcatraz, probably the most infamous prisons, because it was on a fucking island. It's so wild to me, in the middle of the bay. And if you've ever been to the Bay Area, it's a great, amazing tour. They just they refurbished it, or they renovated it and made it even more. I think they've just done a lot of preservation stuff. So highly recommend checking that out. I've been meaning to go back since they've done all that work, but very cool. He was definitely, him and Machine Gun Kelly, amongst a few other notorious crime lords, were.
You're not talking about the musical artist Machine Gun Kelly.
No, I'm not. The one that's like whatever the blood fusion is with Megan Fox. I don't know if you call that a marriage or something, but
yes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. You forgot about that. Yeah,
I saw an article that they wear like a vial of each other's blood around their necks.
Like why? What?
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's even worse.
And she was like, "Don't act like that's weird." And it's like, "Oh, Megan, that's really weird."
Yeah, but
you're crazy. You're freaking crazy. All right, well, we're moving on. So Al Capone,
there's an interesting medical fact about Al Capone.
Oh, hit me with it.
You know how he eventually kind of passed away, if you will? He actually had neurosyphilis. So he actually died from a sexually transmitted infection. Being a medical person, I'm always interested in that side of things. But
what's the
difference? They didn't have a cure at the time.
So. Neurosyphilis and syphilis, is there like is that just a special type?
It started with syphilis, but then invaded his neurosystem, his neurologic system, and he developed like dementia, and I think like even maybe partial paralysis and stuff like that. So
yeah,
damn.
I mean, not surprising, right?
Not surprising though, right? It was the 30s, 40s. So
yeah, not surprising at all.
20s, 30s,
so. 40s. We've got our favorite part, probably our favorite. We've got, because Manny he has some good hot takes. So we're moving on to hot takes time now. So think long and hard for a second about some spicy takes. I would encourage you, it can be X-Wing related, but I do usually recommend the first one you say to not be X-Wing related. So like something like Chipotle is trash or something. I'm not saying that's what I believe, Manny, but I'm like, that's an example of a hot take. So he's like, I'm gonna kill this guy. So, does either of you two want to go first?
I got one.
All right, let's go. Right.
With all this AI stuff that has just been on the news lately, when it comes to replacing people's jobs or even replacing like artists, a couple days ago there was a YouTube video that some guy took the voice of The Weeknd and Drake and made a whole new song, and everyone believed that it was legit. And it sounds really good. And of course, the artists and the labels are pretty mad about it. But even like even in the creativity field, it's kind of insane. And
what's the hot take?
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about it. I mean, I think it's not a big deal if you start replacing people with machines. The less people we have, the better.
Like Terminator 2024.
Jesus Christ.
Bro, I am
a long-winded hot take there.
I am rooting for Skynet. I am rooting for the Matrix. You have no idea.
Oh, maybe I should have taken the blue pill or the red pill. I always forget which one I'm
supposed
to take. The purple pill.
The purple pill,
that's
for
Nexium.
Sure.
That's us for GERD.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is one hot take.
Gives context to it.
Okay. All right, I'll hit you with a hot take. I think all the AI craze is incredibly dumb.
Ooh.
And why do I think that? Okay, real quick. I think that people are like, most people are totally looking at it the wrong way. I think they're trying to get it to do things that, like, it's just like, it's such a waste. It's like it what it's capable of doing is should be much more targeted and much higher level than I think people are like using it for right now. And the one, as a creative person, I've taken huge exception to, like, it's stealing people's art. That's the part of it that I really hate. But I just don't really care about it that much. I don't know why. I guess it's just because it's like, it doesn't really affect me. Other people, it probably affects them a lot more, teachers and stuff, ChatGPT. But for me, it has no intersection of my life whatsoever. So I think it's kind of dumb.
AI is interesting because it's like, what can you do with it, and how is it going to influence whether it's, interactions in society? It's almost like, what was the internet doing 30 years ago in the late 80s or into early 90s? AI is a thing, and it's kind of just out there, unregulated, uncontrolled. I mean, there's a lot of great things that can come from it, but every time there are great things that can come from it, there are also, there's the flip side as well. And
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going to go next. I mean, like you brought up the whole thing about creating music, and just by merging people's voices, they're like, well, if you deep fake a video, how can you even be presumed innocent if, look, I captured a video of Nick, stealing from the Illuminatis and it's his voice and it's his face, but AI created it. Like,
yeah,
what can you do? Like,
it could be interesting. I think it's gonna happen sooner than later, because technology advances in such a fast pace.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it must suck to be a teacher to know, like, not only are you like undervalued by society, but I need to be like a tech expert in determining what is not AI.
Yeah.
Bringing back oral presentations. That's the only way we can do it, I guess.
All right, Edward, do you have a spicy take? It doesn't have to be AI related, even though this has become the AI 312 show where we talk about all things AI.
My spicy take is, I don't know, I keep getting these feeds through my social media about who is the greatest of all time, LeBron versus Jordan.
Oh.
And the answer is obvious.
Yeah,
and of course, you guys are in Chicago, so I think the answer is pretty obvious, but
the LeBron haters will be upset with that spice.
I
mean, all you need to do
LeBron
is watch Space Jam 2, and that's how you know that MJ's the best, because LeBron he felt as if he needed to make his own Space Jam.
Yeah. Like, one of my favorite memes out there is actually a picture of LeBron's kids wearing Jordans. It's like, you say you're the best player of all time, yet your children are wearing the GOAT's shoes. So,
I feel like even LeBron's like, dude, no, it's Jordan. What I know about I feel like LeBron, like, everybody has a pretty hateful perception of LeBron, and for some reason, more valid reasons, but like sometimes, like, hearing him talk, I'm like, I think people have created an even larger ego on his behalf than he even necessarily has. Like, at this point in his career, maybe it's just like he's just more humble or something, but I don't know. I don't find him to be as, I was always just annoyed that he was only thing people talked about on, like, Sports Center. It was like, man, there's other sports, there's other things going on. It's like everything's about LeBron James. Like, oh.
Because the thing about him said, is there a trend where he picks up the players that he goes up against and, like, literally tells his team, yeah, I want to buy that player? Like I believe there's a trend where he kind of picks the players on his team.
Well,
as Larry David go, okay, that's okay. All right, let's see. Man, do you have another one?
Oh shit, that's right. I was supposed to be thinking of one.
We're so opinionated. We're such opinionated people.
Yeah, but I need I like a subject. Like, throw out a subject.
Okay, let's see. Oh, what's a good subject that isn't, like, super overdone?
Yeah, right. Oh, okay. Here, actually, I got one. Have you ever seen, like, the safety ads from other countries where they're, like, super explicit? like drunk driving safety ads in like
Yeah.
Ireland or Canada. Yeah, I feel like they should be aired here. Make them
To make
alright, 'cause
people
they'll really
traumatized
scare-
from what they
exactly traumatize the shit out of people where they won't do stupid shit. That's my hot take.
I think that's legit. I mean, they used to have that HBO special, right? Like Scared Straight or
see.
whatever.
Oh yeah,
where they
yeah, I remember
take
that.
kids into prison, and you know,
It's like, you know what I did? You know what I did? Well, I was scared. I freaking stole something. Or like the kid's like, oh my god.
oh my god, I'm never gonna, commit murder again.
What's up? What's up, Matt? The chat has been quiet. Back Horser in the chat. What's up, dude? Yes. Oh man, I'm thinking about that show now. Oh gosh. Let's go with travel. Let's think of some hot takes that have to do with traveling.
Hot takes with travel.
Oh, here's one. Okay, I have one.
All right.
This could also go for if I were president, but I have others for that. All right. If you are caught trying to, so you know how awful it is deplaning when you land and everyone's just kind of sitting there waiting, and it takes like people 30 minutes to just grab their bag from the overhead bin and leave the plane. You get a little antsy, you're a little impatient. It's finally your turn to get off the plane and the person behind you cuts you off, right? I think that you should be you should either have two options. You can sue them immediately for, let's say you sue them for the cost of your flight, just the massive inconvenience. You're a dick. Or I watched this was a YouTube video. This guy was like coming up with like all these like extremely harsh punishments for petty things. Or what was he said you got to like punch them in the balls or just kick them in the crotch. I hate those people. I fucking hate those people so much. You know what I mean though? Like, okay, being real though, people that do that, it is just such an it's like you've been waiting all this time. I'm getting ready to walk off the plane. Like, unless they're in a total rush, there's no reason to do that. So I really get annoyed with people when they do that. I wish there was a more like a way to shame people for doing like that. So my hot take is people should be shamed in a brutal and scrutinizing way if they cut you off getting off a plane. That's my long-winded hot take. So I've been traveling a lot recently, and I get my patience has been tested.
Or even getting on the plane, because everybody seems like they're in a rush to get on the plane. I'm like, you're gonna be sitting there anyhow, other than maybe on like, say, well, you're either got an assigned seat or you already pre-checked on Southwest, so you're gonna be in a boarding section anyhow.
Oh yeah.
Like, why is everybody in such a rush to like get on just to sit there and wait? Like,
yeah.
You need overhead space, right? Everybody wants to get their overhead bag carry-on there, so you don't have to.
And everybody wants to sit in the emergency exit rows too. There's this obsession because there's a little more leg room, but
yeah, there is a little bit more leg.
A little bit more leg room, yeah. All right, Edward, you got a travel-related hot take for us here?
Travel-related.
You travel a lot.
Decent amount. But,
Decent amount.
Huh. Why are like the late flights always landing in the gate that's furthest from the actual exit? Like every time I get back to like Albuquerque, it's 11 p.m. flight, no other planes are landing, and it's like gate 20 instead of gate 2. Like, why?
It takes like an extra 20 minutes to just walk to the airport.
Yeah, maybe there's somebody there in the industry who knows why it needs to be done that way, but literally like the whole airport's empty and they park and you deplane at the gate that's furthest away from where the actual like exit is.
How about when you get in late and your gate's you can't even park in your gate because there's somehow another plane at your gate. When the airport is empty, you get in at 11 o'clock. Move to an empty gate. Let it be off the plane.
I don't know. I mean, is it a shortage of staff? Like, I would love to know why or if there's any particular theory, but it seems like it happens every single time. I'm always catching some flight that ends up landing locally 11 midnight. There's nobody there, and it's always the furthest gate away.
Yeah, because that's up to the air traffic controller, right?
I mean, Yeah.
I would assume.
Well, they have and then they communicate with the gate operator, and they tell they have to make sure their staff to move the gate into position to receive the plane. But yeah, I mean, air traffic control. There's zones for different airlines, unless usually sometimes they make exceptions, but it's strange when I sat for. Oh, man, I landed at Midway one night late, and we didn't have our gate available because there was another plane there, and I'm like, well, that's inconvenient. And the pilot kept lying to us about how long it was going to take to get to our gate. He kept giving us an update and he would be like, hey, folks, looks like our gate's not ready yet. We'll be sitting here on the taxiway for about we should get you in about 20-25 minutes. And then 30 minutes go by. It's like, hey, folks, just an update from the flight deck here. Looks like in about 30 minutes we'll be getting into our gate. And it's like, you know what? No, you need to be punished for lying to us. Let me take this plane. I'm gonna drive it into the gate.
He's just telling you anything to try to keep you calm. That's why.
But just say it's gonna take a while. Right. Don't give us a time frame. If you don't know, come on.
I mean, granted, these are first world problems, right? It's like, okay, I got
third
to walk
world.
an extra. Yeah. Big deal. I could probably use the exercise anyhow. But
yeah, I think it's just like one of those when you become very conscious of how long you've been sitting in one place, and you can't. There's a law now, right, where you're not allowed to hold people captive on a taxiway for more than 2 hours. Right. They must be brought back to the gate because a lot of airlines were forcing people to just stay on the plane. They couldn't go anywhere. They wouldn't give them any usually wouldn't give them beverage service because they didn't want to do that. A lot of plane airlines are cheap. They're like, we're not going to give you free anything. So yeah, Manny, do you have one?
Yeah. So I would make it illegal to do a live action remake of any animated film, because name a film or name any live action remake that is worth its existence.
Christopher Robin. It's so good.
I wouldn't know, but is that a remake? Is that a live action remake of?
Well, so you're thinking Mulan kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So Disney is the biggest culprit here, folks. Disney's the one we're really talking about. Yeah.
Because they've all been pointless.
I need a live action. I need a Shrek. I need a Shrek.
The closest one that seems to justify it is Jungle Book, from what I hear. But Lion King is probably on the opposite end of the spectrum, where it's just
it's still animated, right?
The film takes this. Well, yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but it's different. It is different because it's still CGI, so it's still computer animated. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Now,
what do you think, Edward, of that?
Train actual lions.
It's spicy.
Well,
you know what? I'm all down.
I'm trying to think of things, but I'm thinking about cartoon series that have been turned into live action movies, and those have actually turned out okay. Transformers and GI Joe and stuff like that. I think those worked out okay. I'm just trying to think of a true animated movie that I liked that was worse in live, or is better in live action form, and I can't think of anything offhand.
Yeah. I don't have any reason to see any of the live action Disney remakes.
That's Did I talk about the whole petition system where you should be able to have a public petition to veto remaking a very famous and good film series like The Lord of the Rings? Hey, Warner Brothers, the public vetoes your idea of redoing The Lord of the Rings. You're not doing that. Yeah.
Is that actual plan though? Are they actually planning on?
They're gonna
them?
Not I don't think they're gonna. They might make stuff that takes place at the same time period, but they're just gonna do spin-offs and stuff and milk it dry.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah. Anybody else have any? It doesn't have to be travel related. Any parting hot takes here before we move on to questioning Edward about his life?
All right. This last one. I think I made a switch. Tavern pizza is better than deep dish.
Wait, what kind of pizza is better than deep dish?
Tavern
pizza.
That's the hidden Chicago style pizza. It's the one that only the people in Chicago really call it the Chicago style pizza. It's thin. It's thinner crust and it's usually everything's under the cheese or not everything but sausage and stuff. Well, no, normal pizza sausage and stuff is on top, pepperoni, but Tavern style.
Well,
You can
like
have
a
it.
Gino's
yeah, that's
in-
right.
Minka style, or
Gino's has it. I think even Giordano's
yeah.
does something like it. Let me see if I pull up a picture for you guys. Let's see.
I gotta look this up. It's like tavern style.
Chicago. Tommy, what's up, man? How are you? I am going to the Scrub Down, but I'm streaming for Gold Squadron podcast now. It's news, so I will not. Please play an E-Wing for me, and I will put you on stream. Please. I was going to bring Gavin, and I'm sad that I don't get. I get to stream. I'm happy, but I'm sad that I don't get to play Gavin.
Oh, is it an extended tournament?
It's an extended tournament, yeah. So it's not official. It's extended. Yeah, I made top 4 at the last one. I lost to Doug Howe by just a couple of points. It was like almost a mirror match, but he had. We both had Shara. We both had Luke and we both had Luke's, but he had Wedge and I had Gavin for the 6 points, and then 2-point Derek at the time. Chicago, it's tavern style. Here we go. Here we go. That's what it looks like. Most of you guys just like, it just looks like a thin crust pizza. Kind of is, but it's pretty good.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I guess if I'm not in the mood to be, eating just one slice, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's good for a bigger. I feel like deep dish is good for a group of people, but tavern style I feel like you get a little bit more value. I don't know. Yes, Tommy did win last year with Corin, so he has to win again. He won the whole damn thing. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, we're not doing Al Capone anymore. And all right, so we have our guest rapid fire time. This is where I already wrote the questions out, Manny, so we're good. I got you this time. Because it's hard to think of like unlimited questions. So what we do here is we set a timer. We see how many questions you can answer in the set amount of time. It's usually, I think it's about 1 minute and 30 seconds is what I have. So we will head over to our main camera screen here. Are you ready? These are random. Some of them are X-Wing related. It's just all over the place, man, because I was just like rifling through them, writing them down.
Sure.
All right. So I am going to start our timer. And once I see it, we're going to roll. All right, here we go. Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul?
Breaking Bad, though I was in an episode of Better Call Saul.
Yeah. Best deep dish in the city. Where would you get it?
I'm a Illuminati's fan.
Okay. If you had to pick Cubs or White Sox?
Sox.
Oh,
Sorry.
God damn it.
Sorry.
Board games or tabletop games? If you had to pick one, I know we play X-Wing, but like.
Board games, because I can play them with my family.
Okay. Greatest protagonist of all time, if you had to pick from a movie. Let's say from a movie.
Jeez.
I know. Or your favorite. It can be your favorite. It doesn't have to be the GOAT.
Favorite protagonist?
Manny knows who my favorite is.
Wow. I am not expecting that.
I know. I really threw a wrench in.
Yeah. How about Chow Yun-Fat's character from, like, The Killer?
Okay, what about villain? Well, your favorite villains. What are the best villains?
Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. Most underrated X-Wing pilot. Underrated.
Underrated.
Like the game
Kaz.
or in like the film?
Kaz, there you go. Yeah, it's just in the game. Most overrated pilot in X-Wing.
Most overrated pilot. I'm gonna put Vader out there.
Okay. Green. So
I won't say Boy Vader versus Defender Vader. I'll just put Vader out.
This is a thing in New Mexico, right? The Christmas chili, a green and red chili.
Right.
If you had to pick one of the two, are you going green or red here?
I'm going green.
You're going green. Yeah, green salsa. Green chili is pretty good. And then lastly, number 10. What is the best fast food restaurant in the United States?
Burger King.
The best? What?
Really?
Whoa!
Wow.
I'm
I would
shocked.
have guessed that. Why? Like, what specific item?
So it probably goes back to my childhood, because like when I was a kid taking swim lessons on Saturdays, my thing was like my dad would go get some sort of fast food, and I wanted a Whopper Jr. with onion rings. It's the presence of the onion rings that's a little bit more unique.
Did they have the Impossible?
I
That's
came
fair.
up with Burger King.
Weren't they like their names in the head, like all the headlines, because they're Impossible Burger? They're like the first like big fast food restaurant to like do one of those, right?
Yep.
Like of all the major chains, and then they like ran out, and people found out they were cooking it in the same grill as meat, and then
Which like totally defeats the purpose. Yeah.
Yep.
well, are we surprised? Yeah. The next question would have been, let's see, what was number 11? So you made it through 10. Most people do between around 12 or 13. What is the best place that you have traveled to? Like that you would tell people, oh, you got to go here.
Ooh, one of the places, probably Japan, probably Tokyo. Tokyo's hands down one of my Tokyo or Osaka, probably one of those two big cities in Japan. One of the coolest places I've ever been to that I've been back to several times. I'm actually going to be heading back out there again this summer.
Love it.
Just the culture, the food, so many things going on. I always say it's like, Vegas plus Manhattan on steroids, but safe.
I hear,
and clean.
I hear
Vegas plus Manhattan
Osaka is
on
like
steroids.
pretty underrated.
What's that?
I hear that Osaka is like pretty underrated. And I don't know if
Osaka
people know
is
it's a bit of a
underrated.
sleeper.
Yeah. The culture of the people in both locations is very different. I mean, New York and like Tokyo are very similar. It's like fast paced. Everybody's going crazy everywhere. Osaka, the people are a little bit maybe friendlier, a little bit slightly slower paced, even though it's still, pretty fast paced. Maybe more of like a West Coast style versus an East Coast style.
Interesting.
Still has 3 million people. I mean, it's the same size as Chicago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it doesn't feel like a big city sometimes. I mean, if there's a way to describe that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. For sure. I have always wanted to go to Japan, so I will have to. New Zealand is just slightly ahead of it on the bucket list. I want to go to New Zealand next year, but we'll see. I need to save a few thousand just for that trip, so I can really enjoy it. I wonder why I want to go there. Side note, Manny and I just went to see The Return of the King in theaters, extended Monday night, 4.5 hours. It was Manny made it through the whole thing without leaving. I was really impressed. He didn't have to use the bathroom, and he bought a drink. It's really impressive, super impressive. That was amazing. That was so much fun. Moving on, we're talking about E-wings, and I thought let's talk about it for our Star Wars lore section here really quick. Let's just like talk about the freaking E-wing for a second, because I haven't seen the trailer yet, but the Ahsoka trailer I guess features an E-wing for like a second, so which is dope.
It's there. I'm curious how it's gonna be part of the story.
I felt very loved because a lot of people were tagging me and stuff, and like I'm like, wow, I guess I'm like literally I am the E-wing guy. Like I'm known for being the E-wing guy, which is just so funny to me because it's a good chip. Like its outline is great. It just blanks out when you really don't want it to, which is literally everything I play these days. I'm curious on how they're gonna
explain why it was more used after the original trilogy. As like how was that replaced with like the T-70? I don't know. My inner nerd kind of.
Yeah, it's such an interesting looking ship.
About that.
It's the E-7E E-wing multi-role starfighter, also called the E-wing escort starfighter, was a single pilot starfighter developed by Fret Tech Inc. It was notable for being the first fighter designed entirely under the support of the New Republic. E-wings deployed with updated laser cannons were known as the Type B. And you guys will see as the cannon on the top and then two cannon on both sides of the engines. Almost looks like it's like a combination of like Star Wars ship and an aircraft, just like just a plane, like you see. As designed, the E-wing was intended to match or exceed the performance of the preceding X-wing series in every respect. It was meant to replace the older design of New Republic service. However, the craft suffered from several significant problems when first deployed among frontline squadrons. The most serious of those problems included malfunction issues with the wing-mounted laser cannons and the new R7 astromech units, which had been designed specifically for the E-wing. As a result, many pilots continued to fly the older but more reliable X-Wing series, which is kind of funny to think about it. If it was such a malfunctioning ship, why give it like Defender-like stats?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
it
I was
was
gonna say.
the Rebel
It's like,
version of the
it's a
Defender.
3 attack,
Yeah.
3 evade ship.
3 shields, 3 hull. Yeah.
It's kind of funny because I think AMG was like, yeah, the E-Wing's probably not going to make it to standard. And then it's in a trailer, and they're like, crap, now we got to put it in the standard. Which, I guess if he does under standard, it's not going to come with its chassis ability. That ability is way too strong for it to be in standard. It would have to be like a Radad.
I would say that if I would disagree with the way the meta is for Rebels now. I think they could use every little gimmick they could get right now.
Oh, that's true.
But
That's
assuming
true.
that I've
That's
heard
true.
rumors, without me divulging anything, that there's going to be quite an aggressive set of changes made to the faction. So I don't know. I don't really think there's a way to be able to slot it into the faction while keeping it costed in a way you could play it. It would be like everything 7, or it would be like anything below like 5 points. I think you can play the Rogue for 5. Or no, I think those are 6 as well. Yeah,
Those
6
are-
points.
Yeah, the cheapest one is 6.
Yeah, 6
So
is
it's
a
like
lot.
You could fit 3 of them in.
You could, but then there's no 2-pointers like that you could slot in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, with the 6-point ships are a little awkward, I find, to build with, especially like in Scum. So the ship ability is part of what makes the E-Wing cool. It's true. And also just because it doesn't have the best linked actions, you can link lock. But so, I don't know. I mean, you typically, you have that, it's lower enough initiative, unless it's Corrin, that you might only have the lock for an offensive mod at that point. And re-rolling dice is no guarantee. Like, unless you're Boba, for some reason it works out. But like, usually you're spending your focus earlier because you're at I4. You're getting shot at a lot before you get to shoot. So I'm not sure. I've never ever looked at the E-Wing in any way before 2.0 or whatever and been like, wow, I think this is problematic. I think this is like something that should be balanced better. It's never been a problem.
Well, again, the main thing is like taking ordnance and alpha striking with it, right? That's really where that initial ability comes in right off the bat. And I guess
Yeah.
so.
Because like A-Wings are proton torpedoes. If you're able to put a proton torpedo on almost every A-Wing,
The
you literally
double
just take a
modded,
lock first turn.
right off the bat. It's
Yeah.
not bad.
Oh, like,
No,
it's
it's
pretty
certainly
good.
not. It's not
I
bad,
like
but
that,
you
like,
can't put
Rebels
pattern
kinda need it.
analyzer and you can't like it then becomes really bad after the first engage because it's like it can't afford to turn around if it's getting shot at and its dial is bad.
Yeah.
Like it goes fast straight and that's it. So like it's
How
kind
much
of
loadout
like a trap.
does-
That's a
How
trap.
much loadout does each of the E-Wings have right
So
now?
Gavin has like 16.
It looks like Gavin is 18. The
18.
Rogue and the Knave are 12 and 14.
Yeah.
Corn is 20. So
7
Yeah.
points though, man.
yeah,
It's
it's like
a toughie.
put a proton torp on one. I guess again they can set the loadout points to kind of limit what you can kind of do with it ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need more than just a single upgrade on those things. So
Yeah.
for a long time I was playing the elusive R4 pattern analyzer versions that just did not die. They just turned around every other turn. They'd turn around and take a focus, recover elusive, and they clear stress in 8 different ways or whatever. It's like it was awesome. I was like the whole alpha side of it, like that's what I had played for a long time, and I'm like, these ships don't die. Like I was always trading with them before, and now I'm like, no, like with Gavin too, they're just like constantly getting like hit crit, like every time. So R4 is great on them. They just you want R3 because of the chassis ability, but R4's objectively makes the ship better. All right, it is time to, speaking of X-Wing, it is time to talk about Star Wars X-Wing, and this is our first stream. I believe it's our first stream since, or like second or maybe like the first 3 since Worlds. We haven't really streamed much since the end of Worlds because we've been busy. But Nicholas God is the winner of the X-Wing World Champion 2023. Congratulations, he flying a First Order list. Nice to see First Order finally kind of make it all the way to the top of the mountain. It's always kind of been, in like the conversation, the initial cuts, but it couldn't really get over that hump, and we get to see it in 2.5 get over that hump. Nicholas is a good dude. He's pretty well known in the community. He's played a lot of online X-Wing. Tommy, thank you for the sub. Appreciate it. So without further ado, let's chat about everything X-Wing here. Well, the main thing I want to do is just make maybe a few bold predictions, because I've heard about some stuff. My predictions aren't gonna have to do with anything that I've heard. But where do we see the game going at this point? I'll be honest, I haven't really thought too much about X-Wing recently because I'm burnt out. I am very tired of the usual suspects, and I want to see some serious aggressive balancing across the board. I want us to be more conservative with how we price things versus being a little too cavalier. So, Edward, I'm going to throw it over to you first. So, let's start with my first question is how are you looking at the game right now? How are you feeling? Are you reinvigorated and playing more after Worlds, or have you kind of also taken a step back and we're waiting?
Well, I'll say that I haven't played a match of X-Wing since Worlds. I mean, I did have to travel for work purposes the week after, and things have gotten in the way, but it's like, yeah, I just kind of need a breather, and just kind of a little bit of reset. I'm actually, as I'm probably going to start playing again in the next week or so, looking through kind of the lists that did well at Worlds to see if there's something that maybe I'd like to just try to play casually that I hadn't considered playing before. Leading up to it, kind of focusing on just practicing things over and over, playing against some of the other lists, so at least you have some experience with them, but not really exploring them as much. So again, I haven't played since Worlds, but I'd like to just kind of drop everything. Probably, I played Empire at the LCQ. I did horribly, but I'm probably not going to pick up Empire for a while and just try to play a faction that I haven't really touched for some period of time. But at the same time, it's interesting because, we talk about the balance and everything like that. And we actually had a pretty good variety of factions represented in the top 1632. I mean, there was representation for pretty much every faction there. And
which is consistent with what we've seen, even in less balanced metas. Representation is, except for Last Adepticon. That was the only questionable representation that we saw. But yeah, I agree. I was actually surprised to see low initiative A-Wings in the hands of one of the best players. So, there's an asterisk next to that, but
still, a serious asterisk.
Made me. So I was inspired to bring 4 A-Wings and a gauntlet to the game store to play Manny, and I had such a bad time. I was in the fetal position in the middle of the game. I wasn't flying poorly. I couldn't roll paint on attack on defense to save my life. It was really, really bad. And I was like, oh yes, this is why Bartaj probably had incredibly good dice luck and good variance consistently throughout all of his games, because I cannot imagine
he flew very well also. I mean, he knows how to fly A-Wings just about as well as anybody out there, because he was flying 5 A's for years back and everything.
RZ2s, right?
Yeah. So it's like, I think what it comes down to is, despite all the types of lists out there, you see a lot of the consistently top level players still doing well, which means that if you fly well,
you still gotta fly well. Yeah, I mean, I think there's with objectives, something we actually haven't talked about as much, but it's kind of an obvious thing, but it's worth mentioning. With objectives, dice variance is a bigger plays what feels like it seems like a bigger role than maybe it has in the past, even though before we didn't have objectives, there was a little bit more of a tactical strategy side of the game that now you have to go towards the objectives. Like, chance engagement, you got to be within range 2 of the center point. Salvage, you got to go get the crates. Assault, you got to go get the points. Scramble, you got to go scramble the point. So that keeps people in certain flight paths that kind of come together, and everyone's rolling dice. So and I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall and just watched all of his games just to see what he's going up against, where he placed things turn 0, and how aggressive he was being with the A-Wings, if he was kind of just not giving people a chance to really adjust, or if he was slow rolling and then coming in all at once, splitting up his ships. Who knows? So I do have to go back and watch some of these games because I haven't had a good chance yet. But bold predictions. What are you thinking? What faction do you think is going to get the most love? Pilots you might see nerfed, just anything.
Well, I mean, they did announce, at the con about some of the new expansions that are coming out. So it's like, it looks like they're trying to give love to things like Rebels and things like that. Dash is supposed to be coming out. I haven't looked at the up close or decoded versions of the card. Everybody's like, oh, it's going to be a crappy Dash, even if Dash is back. But it looks like they're trying to add things to some of the factions that have maybe over the last year not been as favorable, which is good. Again, like having balance and allowing people to play factions that they want to play is a good thing. In terms of things that are getting nerfed, the interesting thing that I noticed, there were a good number of the CIS lists, the separatist lists, had that bombardment drone that was, launching the prox mines forward. And for the price, it's a good little ship. I mean, you can toss 2 of those forwards. I don't know if that it's overpriced, but and it wasn't like everybody was playing them, but it seemed like almost every separatist list that I saw had at least one in there, either one or multiple.
How much are they?
3 points.
I think they're
3.
Yeah.
3 points, and you can you take proximity mines and you just ram into people, block them, and just dunk a prox mine on them the next turn. Yeah.
Or land on a rock and rotate and drop one on somebody or front back. I mean, it's got a lot of versatility.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting ship. Again, I don't know that it's overpriced. I haven't seen it played enough, but it's just something that I kind of noticed just kind of walking amongst the tables that I thought was kind of interesting. Because I think right now that's the only ship in the game that may have that ability, other than trajectory. Like that. But you can't throw a prox mine forward, I think, with anything else. You can launch the other devices, or the other bombs, but not that.
How do you feel about Siege of Coruscant stuff? Mostly Republic. That's really the culprit when it comes to Siege of Coruscant.
You get these like high number ship Republic lists out there, and they're good ships. I don't know if they need to point adjust those also. Interesting, I didn't play against any of them in my LCQs, and nobody in my local group really played them, so I can't say I have any firsthand experience against them. But as I'm looking through the list, I'm like, there's actually a lot of interchangeable abilities amongst them, and again, having that sheer number of ships from the objective standpoint is huge.
Sharing tokens is strong. Is passively sharing tokens.
And they're maneuverable ships, and they're surprisingly durable as well.
Yeah.
So
they don't have on paper, you're like, oh, there's not enough firepower. It doesn't really matter because you can win with objectives with them, and then you still have Anakin in there who can kill things.
Yeah, so. And then you keep Anakin in there, and Anakin's hard to chase after, and he deals a lot of damage. So so that's one that I'm probably going to try to play around with just to see what is it like, because if it has had the success that it's had here at Worlds, then it'll keep going unless again they do another points adjustment in the near future, but probably not for another couple months.
You think so? You think it'll take that long?
I would think so. I mean,
even with the packs coming out in next month, right? Is it it this month? I think it's the end of this month.
At the end of May, I believe.
Oh, it's the end of May.
Expansions?
Month, yeah.
Is it the end of May?
So starter sets, I believe it's like in May.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if they would readjust before Gen Con.
Oh, I would assume that they would change
before Gen because Con. We haven't had one yet this calendar.
Twice a year, right? I would be in favor of 3 changes a year, personally, just to keep things. I say that because we've all been there, and it feels really bad where you kind of just end up in a meta that is just kind of not. It's like the Nantex, right? It's like, oh, I'm ready for this to get changed, right? Sticking with that for 6 months, stuff like that, is pretty tough. So I wouldn't mind every 4 months. 4 months is a long time. Like, you can go to multiple events or, some store champs that are coming up now. You can go to a major event in 4 months. There's plenty of time to be able to take a sample and see how things are doing and adjust for the health of the game. But 2 years isn't bad. I would like
to think
things to fluidly move around.
I like to think if was anything too broke or like too overused, they would do like a emergency change or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean I feel like they don't want to do that for two reasons. One, it means that they made a really big mistake when it comes to like, you know, designing and pricing something. They're like they're folding on it, like, wow, like we have to, this is so bad, we have to change this now. The other thing is just like when FFG, I was shocked when Fantasy Flight did that. I was like, wow, this sets a precedent that we could see this again, and we could see it again and again and again. It only happened like twice. I'm personally for it because if something is ruining the game and the experience for people, it hurts sales too, and it just hurts the vibe of the community. But yeah, I mean, I would be, that's the last resort. Like, it has to be all over the place, causing so many problems. Like, you know, for me, like Vader Defender at like 8 points or something, 7 or 8 points would probably spring a emergency points update for him. Like, it just would be so bad. So yeah.
You know, you bring up like the boy cards again. I played Vader Boy and, you know, the other boys. And it's like they are good values, but I don't know that they're so overpowered that they require points changes. I mean, you know,
it's stuff that you're able to take around them. That's the issues. Like, not only are you going up against like 4 or 5 TIE fighters, you're also going up against Vader. All the TIE fighters also have loadout.
I hate the shield. If they just didn't give them the shield and hull upgrades built in, I feel like it would be way more.
That was such
reasonable.
a huge value into those ships. So
yeah, banning hull upgrade and then giving it to certain ships like kickback is odd. It's like it doesn't sit well with me, but whatever. It is.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
Backstabber and Mauler really need, you know.
Well, if one of them's 4 points, just make the other one 4 points.
True. Yeah, Backstabber's 4 points. Mauler was 3.
Yeah.
So why is that one cheaper? I
don't. Yeah. I would think that we might see a faction get thrown in jail for a while. So I never liked that though. I never like punishing like people that like to play Republic or Empire or First Order or whatever. It's just like, oh, you know, this is really good. Let's just like punish everything. It's like, no, just take that one piece like Iden. Like, you know what? They'd never do this, but for a while, you just ban Moff Gideon or Iden. Just, like, figure it out. Be clever. Build something else. You know, like, we used to have hyperspace, right, Edward? Like, remember how they put stuff in rotation? That was essentially the same thing what I'm talking about. They would, like, ban stuff. You couldn't play it in hyperspace. And they'd be like, you can't play all of these named pilots right now. And it made it... I do miss that a little bit. Like I like that there was different formats that you could play anywhere. Like you would see hyperspace and then, you know, at a number of events, and then you could easily go to events that didn't do hyperspace. That more extended was more common. So we'll that's one of the questions we're going to ask AMG is just about like maybe if there are any plans for extended events down the road, if extended, you know, what that looks like. Because it's a thing. It exists. You know, is it the problem child?
People play it out there. So it's ultimately is the focus more on the sort of local casual scene? Is it more on the sort of tournament level scene? Is it both? I mean, ultimately, you know, we want to keep expanding the community. And if there are people who have, you know, invested in a certain faction who don't necessarily want to keep, you know, buying into other factions and you nerf that faction, will they feel dissuaded to, you know, play at even a local competitive level or something if that's the case? And you don't really want that, I don't think.
You want to be able to play your favorite ships. Like, I mean, I try not to complain too much about the fact that I can't play E-Wings, but I was pretty heartbroken when they said they had no plans of reprinting it. It was like one of 2 ships that just like, we haven't even thought about it. Probably not. It's like, wow, like that hurts.
Going
like,
to.
If you like TIE Punisher, I don't know if they will, just because it exists for a moment. And I mean, who knows? Probably not. It's not at the top of their list.
Hera or like some other characters.
Maybe,
I could see it.
Yeah. Manny, what do you think? What are your bold give me some bold predictions. You're a bold guy. You are a bold one.
I think we are gonna see some incentives to not take the most amount of ships possible. Because it definitely feels right now there's a trend of you taking one ship, like you take either like a Vader or like a Poe in your list, and then you kind of fill that list in with like cheap stuff. So like with Jarek with 3 points, I say like 4, right? So like you're kind of incentivized to take a good amount of ships, and where now we're seeing like 5 to 6 ships on like the regular. I kind of want to see it go back down to like 4. That'll just be nice. I'm just tired of seeing so many ships on the board, and I think with the new core sets coming out that only have 4 ships, they're gonna want to try to incentivize people to, or like bring the average down to 4 and 5 instead of like closer to 6.
6 plus or 5 plus. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, maybe going along with those, if you ask me for a bold prediction, I'm gonna say that they're gonna come out with like 2 new scenarios, missions that will be like tournament level, and maybe they'll cycle 2 of the current ones out, and maybe those new scenarios will be designed more for smaller ship lists. Because I think right now there's, I mean, yeah, there are a few people playing, the Scum 3 ship lists, but really most of them are the larger lists, like May was talking about. I think by changing the scenarios, you can actually kind of push that forward a little bit more. And
I've also thought about that. I just cannot think of a scenario where you would benefit in having less ships. I don't know, perhaps I'm not that creative. But
I don't know how you incentivize people to take with 20 point scale if they jumped, if it went down to 18 maybe or something weird like that, but they wouldn't do that because 20 point victory, 20 point
the like initiative, like the old initiative style or something. They'd have to do something. Again, I'm not probably thinking about it. Probably some other folks out there have already thought about how to create scenarios to do that, but there's got to be a way that there is some scenario that actually favors fewer ships out there.
And like one last thing, probably the biggest one, like the biggest one for me is they fixed the high initiative spam. I feel it's like a pretty common occurrence where you're trying to play on a move, but it all like kind of depends on like the road roll, because you see all these like high initiative ships like mainly 5s in where you want to do a certain move, but since you don't know if you're going first or second, it like
matters a lot for the scenarios too, like so much. Road rolls, who can claim first or who gets to claim last. Like salvage, you want to move first to get that package off the table, but like scramble, it's just dumb when you get it, the person just flip flops it back from you. It's like you basically just wasted an action.
Yeah.
And I know it's like it's like you're forcing your opponent to make a decision. It's like, well, yeah, but like still they have 100% the advantage there because they're the last ones to get it. They can make that call with all the information.
Yeah. So. There's so many times where like I want to do like a town roll or like a 4K, but I just stop myself from doing it because I don't know if I'm going first or not. Yeah.
That's something I actually kind of liked with Road, is just that it's made people not choose the most obvious thing, and therefore you have to like really like the psychological warfare of it has kind of been fun, but with scenarios involved as well, I do think it's difficult with the just like I do wish like Will saying bring the initiative back down to 4. I think it's also beyond that, an extension of what you're saying is that there isn't as much of a reason to be taking any pilots that are lower initiative. Like, how much of the game is unplayable right now in terms of pilot options? Like, not just the chassis, but just the pilots. Like Rebel RZ1s, like Jake. Who plays Jake anymore? He used to be all over the place. Shara, why is she even 4 points? Sabine was great at the transition and right before 2.5. She's so fun still. And a lot of just because they're not played, it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're bad for the way the game is structured now. And yeah, it's playing I2's
generic anything, right? It's like,
and then generic
other than maybe generic ties, I don't think anybody plays generic anything else.
No.
I can think of like Black Squadron Aces, or something like that. But really, the generics are just kind of like a waste of space in the binder or the card deck.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to, bring back some generics and flying, big swarms again. I guess your droids. Maybe that's the other thing. Vultures. Yeah. Okay. So, but didn't see a whole lot of droid swarms out there. I think Daniel played one, maybe.
Yeah, Isofane. That's about it. I mean, 7 ship list he has, but yeah, it's you know, it's so we'll learn to adapt again when the points change. I'm always a bigger proponent of big shakeups versus just a couple of tweaks. Like completely flip it on its head. Like make people think again about what's good. Like, you know, go back to the drawing board with list building instead of going through Launch Bay or Yasby and just being like, boy, you know, boy +3, boy +5, or, you know, just like Poe and 3 or Poe and 2, and it's just like the same. So I think it's just a little uninspiring at this point. Just most people will say that after a long meta anyway, or a long time with one meta anyway. So like, I'm ready for something new. You know, it's much better than it was a year ago. Way superior. Like, but I think a lot of us are just ready to just. We're at that point every time with X-Wing. Once we've stuck around with the same points and the same rule sets and all that stuff for a while, we're like, all right, ready to go. Do you think we'll see the restricted list get utilized?
They add stuff to it, or they take away?
There's nothing on it still after 2 phases. Yeah.
Wait, a restrict? Wait, that's not the ban list. Restricted just means that you can only take a select amount of like certain and.
Yeah, like you restrict how many proton torpedoes you can take on a list to 2, for example, or 1. It's there for a reason. That's why. I mean, it's just like how extended is. It's there.
I can't think of anything that's like too offensive. That's
elusive. I wouldn't mind elusive being like limited to.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever been able to re-roll an evade when I've rolled.
Did you see these stream games though, Edward, dude? Did you see Nicholas Scott's freaking elusive rerolls? I mean, I know that's just like, you know, that's
end of 1, right?
Confirmation bias, but it's just pretty hilarious.
Here's a question: is elusive like pretty good, or is it just overused? Because if you have 2 points left over, that's just what you.
Well, take. How many ways can you modify defense dice? Like it's such a powerful thing that you can do.
But then again, it's only restricted to resistance.
And you have to blank out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice card. I've stopped using it because maybe it's just the way I roll. I think I've literally rolled 1 elusive like ever.
People like refer to it as like 1/3 of a shield upgrade. I'm like, okay, that's one way to refer to it, I guess. Like if you have a passive or mod or a focus, it's elusive becomes very strong.
Sure.
So yeah, but yeah, I mean, reroll blanks to blanks feels bad.
Yeah.
Feels bad.
But it's probably just me.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there for sure. I playing elusive on the E-wings though. They always had focuses. It was like just incredibly powerful. I'd say the power of elusive, if you have a ship that it can do a red maneuver, if it does 2 or 3 red maneuvers in a game, gets it back, being able to use that 3 or 4 times in a game is really strong. Most people, it's usually just once.
I mean, I think Nicholas had it like on all of his ships, other than maybe one of them or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, that's a lot of elusive.
So. 2 points. It's cheap. 3. It used to be 3, and it was never used. But I think it could go back up to 3, or you restrict it to like 2 or 3 in a list. I don't know. Let's see some sort of clever use of the restricted list. Let's see what they do. I mean, Alpha Strike stuff isn't really a thing. Like, it's not a big problem. You can try it in Rebels. We saw one list go that route and do well in the cut, but then the game it lost, it went about as I expected. Like. The ion cannon into Dutch, and they like just like it's all just going bad, you know. It's just like, oh, and a 10 being a B-wing and I-4 getting shot at 3 times. Like, well, he's dead in 2 turns, and Aaron Kraken being bad. Like, it was just like, you know, it's like you use Aaron Kraken to give 1 ship 1 time a red action, and then he gets shot at twice and dies. It's like this is E95. It's just it is what it is.
He serves a role.
Yeah, you know, very still. I do admire people that try to make Aaron like a thing. In like Dutch, you know, even 4 points is not bad. Dutch at 4, but it's a Y-wing, like, and he's I4, and his ability's solid, but you know, pretty good.
One of the top lists that was playing Rebels, who was it? It was Mario?
It was the Dutch Aaron 10.
Yeah. I mean, West. He had Aaron in there, and he made like top 4, top 8, something like that.
No, I mean, hey, giving someone an action is pretty good. You run Dutch up next to him. And then you Dutch target locks, gives Aaron a lock or whoever, and then Aaron shoots and then gives him a focus for a double mod of Pro Torp. But once you start dealing with ion cannons and disabled power regulators, and it's just like just fodder, 7 points of fodder in the middle of the board. It's brutal. The thing, I played a lot of Dutch Aaron for a while, just trying to see if like can I get Corrin, Wes, Aaron, Ezra, Dutch to be a thing. It's like 3 proton torpedoes, plasmas, K2SO, like everything. And the biggest recurring weakness was that they would just get bum rushed. Like you can't fire your torps if everybody's at range 1 of you in the second engage, first or second engage, and it's like you're not very maneuverable. So yeah. But yeah, so I think we can all agree we'll probably see Rebels be a little bit better. I would imagine Scum might be a little bit better. FO, I think I wouldn't change too much with FO, but I don't like the three agility TIE fighter spam. I think I just don't let him take shield upgrade. Drop the loadout, probably the best way to do it.
Or just like change Commander Malorus. I feel like
Malorus could go up to 4 and add some loadout now, I think.
4 or just take out, just like, she could stay at 3, but take out, just like put her loadout to 0.
Or like 4 points or something. You could take like Mag Pulse, something, that's it. Or I don't even think you can take Mag Pulse at 4. I think that's 5, right? Or is it 4? I don't remember.
I think
Mag Pulse, I believe, was 5.
Yeah.
Have to look.
But yeah, so I think a lot of people are speculating it's going to be within a month, but it could be. I'm assuming it'll be before Gen Con, but we'll see.
I mean, it would make sense.
We're seeing events being announced now. I will, say this now: the Windy City Trials event link is up. We are hosting a official event on the 3rd of June at Good Games. We'll be there streaming and doing commentary. So I will post a link at the end of the stream in the chat for those of you guys that are interested. And I haven't announced it formally yet on Facebook and stuff. So in Discord, we will soon. I'm just giving people that are in the area first dibs. Noah, thank you so much for the sub. What's up? Good to see you in the chat. Any other parting words before we move on from X-Wing?
I'm really looking for the new store kits, frankly. Like the fact that if they are going to have Worlds invites in them, I think we'll try to encourage people who may not have otherwise gone to an event like that to like really get them out there. Having new prize support is huge. It was great that AMG dropped all those at Worlds, and with the upcoming kits and everything, I think that's always been an encouraging thing to get people to come out.
You love prizes.
Oh yeah, maybe just a little bit.
God, you're a collector. I can always count on seeing Edward's post like, I'm looking for this damage deck, or like, do you have this template tray? I'm like, oh my god, this guy's he's gotta have it all.
At this point, people started coming to me, hey, do you have this yet? Which is
here, it's yours. I don't need it. Yeah.
Notorious.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I agree. The just having store events back is awesome. I get to go to like local game stores and just like play competitive X-Wing at a smaller scale, because it's a lot. It's intimidating. Even though I've played in a bunch of large events, it's still like you're never truly 100% fully prepared to dive into those kinds of big events. So just being able to play at the stores near you is good for growth and good for casual yet competitive fun. So yeah. All right. Well, our next segment here is we're just going to quickly talk about we're actually going to talk about the Bad Batch really quick. So, and we'll also talk about Mando. So this is pretty much just Star Wars media discussion real quickly. I haven't seen the finale yet, guys, just a heads up. Edward hasn't either. Manny, did you watch it yet?
I have not, no.
Okay, cool. So we will not talk about the latest episode of The Mandalorian.
Any Bad Batch, so I can't really give feedback there.
That's fine. Well, you haven't watched the first season either, right?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll keep it brief then. I know, Manny, did you finish Bad Batch?
I'm pretty sure I made like maybe a little bit more than halfway, but I know what happens. I kind of spoiled it for myself. All right. Well, minor spoilers. I won't really go too much into detail.
Like I probably won't even recall that if you guys.
It's worth watching though. I think people have wrote like after the first season. I'm like, you can't write off the show. You have to watch it. If you like. Did you watch Clone Wars at all?
I watched Rebels, and I started on Clone Wars. I tried to watch it with my boys, and we just, between all the other side series and or Mandalorian, it's like we gotta try to stay on track somewhere. So
Yeah.
I have not gotten through Clone Wars.
Yeah, Bad Batch is Clone Wars adjacent, but it has much more of the highs of Clone Wars than the lows. Like Clone Wars was really trying to get its footing, figuring out what if it was made for dumb children or if it was made for, you know, a wider audience, and then they finally found their groove a few seasons in. Bad Batch just it hits the ground running in season 1, very like, you know, Order 66, very intense, and it almost is like what Andor does and paints like a very cool insider picture of like what life is like in the ramifications of dealing with the Empire transitioning into the Republic transitioning to becoming the Empire and what's going on and with the clones and everything like that. However, so the first season, I would honestly give it like a 9 out of 10 overall. There wasn't really any particular episode where I'm like, wow, that was a waste of my time. The second season started off with like 3 or 4 just pure filler episodes. I was like, it seems like they don't know where they're trying to go with this. You just have the same group of characters just doing stuff, and the formula of just doing side quests is, you know, tried, and you know, we're tired of it because we saw it in Mando season 1, like the whole show, almost the whole season. And then so it kind of starts off down here, and then there's a couple episodes where it goes back up and then it drops back down again because there's more filler episodes. And then at this point I've finished the show, and it finishes at a pretty high point. Like they wrought the ship. I don't know how you say that. And finished on a high note, wrote the ship. Yeah. And overall, I was pretty happy with it. I would give it probably like a 7.5 out of 10, maybe a 7. Just because I felt like maybe a quarter of the show was a little lost. But again, it was still good enough that I'd recommend watching it. Just kind of like, there are, you know, times where I just kind of tuned out because I was like, I'm just not really interested in this. And then there were moments where I'm like, oh my God, this is really good. For those of you guys that have seen the second season, there is an incredible moment, and like I want to say it's like the 3rd or 4th to the last episode of the show, when they expose the admiral for destroying Camino, and he tried to cover it up. They expose him in front of the Senate, and Palpatine had been gone for months, like just hadn't seen him, and he comes up in the middle of the transmission showing the evidence of Camino being destroyed by a Venator fleet. And it's like chilling. Like it's such a cool moment. He gives this awesome speech, and it just felt like it was just a very cool like Star Wars moment, like what a lot we got from Andor. There's like awesome moments where like that was so cool. Yeah. That's like one of my favorite scenes, hands down. I was like, this isn't a freaking animated show. And I had to show my dad because he loves the Emperor. I'm like, Dad, you got to watch this scene. This is so cool. He's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah. I'm curious, you guys in the chat, what did you say? Noah saying Bad Batch salvaged the show in the last 2 episodes. It was okay overall. I agree with that. If you look at the episodes individually, half were amazing and half were meh. I feel like that's kind of like the last 3 seasons of Clone Wars, but the last season of Clone Wars is just all, you know, except for the Bad Batch parts. Ironically, the last season of Clone Wars, the worst parts of that last season is just the Bad Batch, because it's just like,
really, I think it's with the sisters and Ahsoka.
That's also not great, but I'd still pick that over it just because there was no depth to the characters. They just kind of introduced them, and they're like Team Fortress characters, and I was like, I don't know. Like
I like Team Fortress to some extent.
Yeah, the episodes that move the history up are great. Yeah, so yeah, definitely that one scene with the Emperor giving that speech about
Yep.
What was he? He's talking about retiring the clones, and yeah, it's the speech where he basically ignites the enlisting and conscription of Imperial stormtroopers.
Yeah,
like that's the announcement. We are going to start with the Imperial Stormtrooper program, and it's like, whoa. Yeah,
because he argues like, oh, these clones just like followed a blind order
to
like,
destroy their own home planet. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it was good, man. Chills just thinking about it. Good stuff. So that's Bad Batch. Mando. All right, guys, I have some takes. I haven't seen the finale, and I'm gonna be mindful of that this is a newer show, so I'm not gonna really spoil anything. Manny and I had a good conversation about season 3, and unfortunately, I think we're getting to the point where they're kind of just milking it and doing random shit, and even the stuff more recently that has been awesome and badass and pretty cool has still felt a little out of place, like just a little random. because there's just been a lack of consistency from what we saw in season 1, which for me, the consistency was stuff I didn't like. Season 2 had a great narrative development, had just some of the best, highest highs, especially at the end with Luke. And then season 3,
aimless.
I gotta say, man,
like, where are we going with this?
it's I've always maintained after the first season of Mando, everyone's talking about it. It's like billboards, everything. I'm like, man, this show is incredibly overrated. It's the show that's made for the normie and the casual Star Wars fan, and then these Star Wars fans, we all watch it. I watch it. We all love Star Wars here, but I feel like it's the lowest common denominator. It's trying to appeal to everybody.
I mean,
at once.
You're right. But that's
versus
not bad.
Andor,
the
for example.
The first 2 seasons were actually pretty good, and they were trying to appeal to the masses. Season 3 though is a bit different. Yeah, no, I guess the word I would use to describe is aimless. It was only like what the second to last episode where we kind of realize, who like the baddie is and what the like show was trying to go for. That was like what in like the 8th. No, there's only 8 episodes. Like the 6th or 7th episode.
Yeah, like I think I just got through episode, was it 6? I'm a couple episodes behind when, for those who haven't seen it yet, 5-second spoiler, it's when Bo-Katan gets the Darksaber. So like that's where I've gotten so far.
But like
even
as a spoiler, nobody's surprised by to hear that happens.
Yeah, but like getting up to that point, I'm like, did they really need 6 episodes to get there? And it actually made me disappointed in like the Mandalorian culture. I was like, I was always thinking they'd be a lot stronger than they actually are, and some beast just comes out of a lake and kills half of them or something. It's like,
yeah, it's like, really, these guys
really?
are
I thought you
supposed
guys
to be
were a lot more, sharp and than that. And yeah, it's been a little disappointing. I expected a little bit more out of Mandalorians in general, and I'm glad that they kind of brought them back. But I was like, wow, either they've been out of practice or something. But
Grogu should have stayed with Luke. That's probably my hot take for the
Grogu
season. Grogu should have stayed with Luke because Grogu hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
At least like that's someone memorable. He's just like a prop now, a background character. There to just like there to be cute and literally nothing else.
Yeah. Sorry, I was moving stores for those of you guys watching. I was trying to OBS froze me. I was trying to enlarge the chat and it froze, and then I ended up dragging around our cameras a little bit, so a little disorienting. I was like, what's going on the screen right now? I'm so tired of Grogu, man. I don't know. It's just it was such a cool thing in the first season. That reveal was so cool. It's like, whoa, that's so neat. What's gonna happen? And then it's kind of just like want to make him a Mandalorian, and I'm like, no, like where are we?
Grogu's not gonna be a Mandalorian.
So here's
it's gonna be 100 years until he's able to talk. Like it's like gonna be a long time.
2 things really quick I want to call out that are really important to me. The first one, this is probably the most redeemable part of season 3, is that I mean, it like makes me want to cry. What they did for Ahmed Best is
that part was cool.
Freaking amazing. Like it is so important to me that that he doesn't feel hated anymore, and they went above and beyond to like rewrite his story and make him feel better and make him feel loved and included. And like, I mean, seriously, like I didn't realize that was him, and I'm like, who's this guy? I just didn't put the dots together, and then I saw the article about how they put him as the Jedi that saves Grogu, and I'm like, this is like, it just means so much to me. That was so cool that they did that.
Very clever way to do it.
It was so
like
cool.
2 lightsabers. He's like dual wielding.
Oh, he's so awesome, man! They made him such a badass. It's so awesome. Oh, I'm so here for it.
To kill him off.
If Disney just being like, just the fact that they cared about that, and that even though it was a little bit of a risk putting a guy that played dry, like they're like, no, this is important to us. And we like what they did with Hayden too. It's like, they're good people. They deserve this opportunity. They didn't even do anything wrong, like to deserve warrant any of this in the first place. Just like people just suck, and prequel haters are frustrating to deal with. Like, oh man, I love that. And then the second thing was just putting Christopher Lloyd in there. Even though I'm not a huge fan of these celebrity cameos, I have Back to the Future and Christopher Lloyd have a special place in my heart, and seeing him on screen in Star Wars is just such an an actor who's played one of the most iconic characters in blockbuster history. It was cool. However, the episode was bad, and it was the only thing that made me happy. It wasn't great. That's the aimless side of it. It's just like, I almost feel like they're drafting the episode ideas as they go, and they're like, hey, let's put Jack Black and Lizzo in an episode and put them on some goofy planet, and we'll have Christopher Lloyd in there too. And it's just like, what a weird, that scene when Lizzo's like, I trusted you, and Christopher was like, I'm sorry that it's like, what is this dynamic? Like, this is all so bad.
Also, how like apparently she chose like a Tonight Grogu at the very end.
Oh yeah,
that was a bit odd. I was just like out there. It's like, what did he do?
What?
You're choosing a night. Him over the other two characters actually did something.
Oh, the Grogu, man. What was the other thing? In that they like I remember Tyler Tippett mentioned, he's like, he thought it was cool that they like explored this idea of like, repurposed droids, and I'm like, yeah, but that was like the main plot buried behind like a bunch of crap. You got like almost no time exploring that.
Well, it goes back to your original hot take about AI, right? Is AI going to take over? Like, do we actually need droids? Because they've made humans lazy. And,
man,
question: Are droids like sentient in the Star Wars universe? Like, are all of them? Or
after the whole L3 thing, I think yes.
Oh well, that's actually kind of messed up.
Droid rights.
Well, they go to that droid bar and everybody's like,
if they're all sentient, that's kind of messed up.
When Lucas was in charge, they weren't, but they've for some reason decided to go down that rabbit hole, and it's just like there's no payoff for it. It's just weird.
Also, the reasoning where like all the droids are like, yeah, humans created us, so we're okay with being their slaves.
Yeah, I mean, they're programmed. It's like they're computers. They're walking computers. I don't know. It's just like, try not to think too hard into it. It's like everything. You get existential about anything, right? Like,
it's like, yeah, like humans only live for 100 years. We live forever, so it's a small way to pay back.
Oh man,
I guess.
It's just, I mean, TLDR. I think I want to say maybe a third of Mando season 3 is, I would classify as like good. They're like good for Star Wars and like developing like the world and like the story, but I really don't want to see the show go on another 4th, 5th, 6th season. Like,
well, because I believe John Favreau was like on record as saying like, yeah, we don't know how this is gonna end. We're just kind of not like fly by the seat of our pants, but like they definitely don't have.
So what happened with the sequels didn't really pay off. Yeah. So not having an idea of what you're doing is usually not something I recommend.
I mean, Andor is gonna have like a second.
That's it.
Second
just
season,
one more.
That's it.
Perfect.
Perfect. That actually gives me confidence. That tells you have a plan.
Yeah, but it might also have to do with the showrunners. They might be like, they did such a huge success, and then they're like, we're not doing any more of this after this. Like, they might have to, if they were to continue the show, they would probably have to have different people make it, and I don't think they want to deal with that. Like so who knows? But I'm glad to see that. Sometimes you just got to know when to throw in the towel and end on a high instead of potentially ruining something. And season 3 is teetered on that edge a bit of just kind of butchering the high that we got from season 2, which will go down as the best season of The Mandalorian, no matter what. I think wherever we end up. People take that episode with Jack Black and Lizzo and the whole thing with the Darksaber, and they're like, that brief 5 minutes at the end, they're like, that episode was so good. It's like, no, just because there was something good at the end doesn't mean it was a good episode.
Yep. No.
I was like, no, it's not.
Now,
It's
all
not.
this
Use the
being
transitive
said-
property to give her the lights, the dark saber. It's like, okay, well, yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's like, actually, if
Like,
you think about it, we should have talked about this
technicality.
earlier.
Yeah.
They should have
And like,
talked
all right,
about that a lot
all right.
earlier.
Yeah. And all the other Mandos were like, yeah, I guess we'll just take your word on it.
yeah,
Sure.
they're like, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes
It's like,
sense.
Man.
Wow, I never thought about it that way.
do witches float like a duck? So,
Oh, we don't even talk about that weird love scene thing with the freaking Mon Calamari guy.
Oh,
And-
that's right,
oh
the
my
Romeo
god, it
and
was
Juliet.
so weird.
forgot about
That was
that
so
part.
bad, dude.
Oh.
Oh.
it's like, no, just go. You don't love me? What?
It's like, but I love you. It's like, no, but you have to go. And the Red Orion's like, well, we're here for the prince. We don't want any, we don't want to be involved. It's like, oh, like we're Mandalorians. You're supposed to be doing like way more badass things than dealing with bullshit like this. It was just like, that was
Yeah.
odd, man.
I'm like,
I don't know who thought that was like gonna be good, but it was bad. It was really not good.
All this being said, I'm so incredibly excited for Ahsoka.
oh yeah.
Even after everything I've said, I'm still excited for Ahsoka.
Yeah, I still have to watch that
Skeptically
trailer.
excited.
Yeah,
Skeptically excited.
yeah.
Were they
Rosario
gonna have
Dawson as
season of
Ahsoka is just
Obi-Wan?
like fine to me. I don't know. I didn't get enough Ahsoka and Mando for me to be like, oh my god, ah! It's like some people are just like freaking out about live action Ahsoka, and I'm just like, I'll watch it. Let's see how it is.
I love Clone Wars. That's why. It's just like I'm just kind of excited to see her in her own show.
So will this be the live action version of Clone Wars?
Oh,
No,
Manny.
No, it's not a remake. It's not a remake.
All original content?
Get out of here with that BS.
Oh man.
Is there another season of Obi-Wan, or that was a one-off?
No,
That was
I
a
don't
one-off.
think.
Yeah.
it's one off. There should be a second one.
That show it was good enough for me, but it could have been. I think it should have been a lot better than it ended up.
Yeah, it should have been better.
It's a 6-rated show that gets turned into an 8 because of the ending.
Yeah. And we won't even talk about Book of Boba Fett. All right. It is time
So
for
disappointing.
If I Were President. This is a good one. I already have one that has been on my mind. So think long and hard. If you were president, let's just say that you could be very loosey-goosey with your executive orders and almost dictator-esque with a law that you create.
All right, wait.
What would...
Honest question. What's the difference between this and hot takes?
So hot takes is supposed to just be like statements, like this is what I believe, and then this is why I believe it. If I were president, is like there's a premise that you hate, and if you were president, you would throw people in jail for 18 years if they did the wave
they
at a baseball game or
overlap.
something. Like
They overlap to like a pretty
Well,
good
I
extent.
feel like
Is this serious if I was president, or is this
well, think about no. Well, serious is more boring. It's got to be like, but
Yeah.
like if you had the power to institute like a law or something, like just something that's really important. Like for example,
Yeah.
if somebody that like stands on the left side of the escalators, they go to jail for 25 years. You know, for doing that. So you know, a very
like,
I don't know, like.
If you have like headphones in and a person's
Yeah.
like waving down the street to like support a cause, they should go straight to the gulag. Like stuff like that. Completely reasonable things, I would argue.
Yeah, very reasonable. Except if Manny's mom tried to get his attention while he has headphones in, it's a little. All of a sudden, it's a problem. It's a little hard. Gulag, mom. Gulag. All right, here I have one. I'll start us off. So you guys think. This is one that's been on my mind because Manny and I, when we went to see The Lord of the Rings,
Oh, I knew this was gonna come up.
when we
I
went
knew
to see The
this
Lord of the
was gonna
Rings,
come
there was this girl and her boyfriend who decided to pick a theater to crash and do God knows what.
Oh,
But she
geez.
was running her mouth the first 15 minutes. Like you have all these fans in there to watch the movie, and she's just talking and talking about random shit. It has nothing to do with the movie, not asking questions, just like talking, like conversationally in a dark theater, you know, this level of voice. And I shush her. I'm like, shush. Like after like, I want to say like 10 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to give her as much leeway as I can. But she's got to know that at some point people are going to get mad. So I shushed her. She kept talking. This girl behind me, she turns over, she's like, "Can you stop talking, please?"
The true MVP.
A hero, just a true MVP. And she's like, "Sorry," you know, like as if it was like, how? Oh my god, I'm like, am I interrupting something here? Like, you know, like. So eventually they left because they were totally squatting in the theater. There's no way they bought tickets for that. There was like, yeah, didn't give a fuck about the movie, right? So if I were president, I would institute a law. It's a strike-based system. I'm a baseball guy, so I'm just gonna roll with the strike-based system. So if you get, and there's gonna be an easier way to catch people doing this. If you get caught being disruptive in a theater, you are immediately you get one warning, okay? Like you get immediately, like as soon as the movie starts, you get caught. You're like, you have to stop. You get that warning. If you continue, you are removed from the theater. You're escorted out. I would say every theater should have maybe like, you know, just a SWAT team level of people that just like escort you out. Very dramatic, very dramatic. You know, like armed guards to escort. You know, the movie gets paused. You get escorted out with armed guards, and then you are given a strike, and you are banned from the theater for, I would say, 3 months. Okay, you come back, you do it again. All right, you've been banned from all movie theaters for a year. All right, strike 2.
No. How about this? You pay for everyone's ticket. You pay, like, you are now on the hook for everyone's ticket to that theater. Like
that too. We'll do that too.
Showing.
We'll do that too.
Yeah.
You also get a substantial fine where you reimburse everybody at the theater. And then the third time, you receive a lifetime ban from going to see a movie theater. You would have to change your name and your get plastic surgery because there will be facial recognition to be able to go see a movie again. Because in my country, you cannot go to a movie theater and ruin the experience for everybody else just because you think you're a special little shit and you want to talk the whole time. Same goes for being on your freaking phone.
Specifically with Lord of the Rings.
No, wait, how often is that in theaters? Anything, okay? Because everything's expensive nowadays. Going to see a movie is expensive. You bought all those concessions, and then you can't enjoy it because there's somebody talking about God knows what behind you when they should know better. Because we need to do better as a society than to be those people. So as president, I will punish the hell out of those people. All right.
I got one. I would put on every social media site, I want to make a law saying that you need to have a unlike button, or like a dislike button. So like I know that Reddit. So I know that Reddit is like a bit of a cesspool, but it's less of a cesspool than like Twitter and Facebook. And my personal idea behind that is because of the fact that you can downvote stuff. I think you should be able to see them on like
dislike
on
things
on Twitter, or Facebook,
like Instagram Reels. People are always like, use me as a dislike button, and everyone's like, you know, like heart reacting that comment.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like cringe posts and stuff.
Yeah, like stop coddling people. Let people. I mean,
it's the internet. You're exposing yourself to people to judge you.
But come on, I mean, cause think, if a person had the option to like press a unlike button or like write a mean comment, I think people are gonna be like lazy to the extent where they just hit the unlike button rather than being toxic in the comments.
So you want a more honest social media platform, more honest social media platforms where people can show people this is bad and you should feel bad, basically.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough.
Doesn't solve the issue, but I think it would like help.
President Picasso. I like that. That's a good ring to it. All right, that would be your State of the Union address. The first thing in my first 100 days. You were all gonna be able to dislike every post. All right, Edward, hit me with it. If you were president, executive order, your first 100 days, maybe your first 10 days, who knows? What would you do?
If you change lanes without using your turn signal,
oh yes,
you will be required to provide rickshaw service to your local community for 6 months as punishment.
I love the idea of just the most extreme punishments for things that are like really petty. It's just so fun. It's like it's gonna keep people from doing it.
Well, maybe people want to do it because it gets them in shape, and it's dual fold. It keeps them off the highways.
That's a good one.
But Yeah, it's one of my pet peeves. It's like, I don't mind if you cut me off as long as you give me that split-second notice before you do something. Because like in Chicago, you know, people cut each other off all the time, but at least from when I lived there, I remember like, hey, at least they turned their blinker on for that split second so I could kind of like anticipate it.
Yeah.
It's the ones that just catch you off guard that, and unfortunately that's the way driving is here in New Mexico. So
it's like it's okay if you're a dick, but at least give me a heads
let people
up.
know, hey, I'm the dick.
Like, hey, I'm gonna move in from you. I'm like, okay, fine. But
I got another one. That's a good one, by the way. Noah saying he loves that in the chat. So this is something that is kind of a point of contention in sports, is the teams that tank every year, that like they have owners who are really rich that don't like invest in the team, and they have bad teams. Like the Oakland Athletics are a perfect example. In baseball, they're 3-14 now. Nobody goes to their games. They put no money in the team. So my idea is to encourage billionaire owners to invest in their teams and therefore, you know, give something to their fans. If a team loses a game, I would say, yeah, by a certain number of points or runs or whatever, it triggers an automatic 20% refund to everybody that went to the game. So like and it's got to be a big number, right? So it's like if your team loses by 15 runs in baseball, they're just bad. And this could happen to good teams. Just don't be bad. It's gonna put pressure on the owners. They'll lose a lot of money. 20% refund to everybody at the game. So they will be incentivized to pack the seats but it's also a big risk and try to win instead of having just bad teams. And you know, you pack the seats and you end up losing by 15 runs or something, then that's a lot of money you just lost. But I think that's the kind of game of roulette we should be playing with these people. So that is, if I were president, that was with billionaires, why not? Can you imagine? It's like the 15th run scores, the owner's like, no, I'm never gonna financially recover from this. There's 40,000 people here.
Then you get the biggest sports book people like betting against the like that would just change the whole landscape.
Let's mess it all up, man. Who's next?
All right, I got one.
Okay.
All right,
last ones for each of you two.
All right, we've seen films of like IPs that are made just for the sake of keeping the IP, rather than having it enter public domain, right? Like, yeah. If you make a trash film about an IP that is about to enter public domain in effort to keep said IP, if it doesn't like meet a certain criteria, it just goes
Rotten Tomato score.
Yeah,
everyone review bombs it. I want it public domain. Is that what happened with Winnie the Pooh?
But you know, like I'm trying to think of a film that or a franchise.
What is that? Avatar? Not the Last Airbender live action.
Possibly. Like we gotta do like
the live action movie, the Avatar live action movie that everybody hates. It just goes into public domain.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. Or honestly, just how about any IP that makes a trash film? It just triggers it to go into public domain. It's like Rise of Skywalker. Star Wars is now public domain. Go to town.
Sorry, Disney, you paid $3 billion for this? Well, no.
Exactly. All the Chinese knockoffs are like, we're free. We can. It's like the Shawshank. It's Shawshank Redemption. It's like all the Chinese companies are like.
Jeez. That's intense. That's intense.
All right, Edward, follow that one up as our last one.
All right, this is not going to be popular, but I'm going to make text messages limited to like 3 sentences. You cannot send paragraph-long text messages.
Wait. Otherwise, like a single text, or can you split it like in 3 texts, as in like 3 sentences, like as in like a sentence for each text?
In one text.
One paragraph.
Because once it gets beyond that, it'll automatically trigger a phone call to schedule.
Yes.
No, I'm out.
I need to talk to you.
I don't want to live in your country where you're president. I am a hardcore texter. I rarely ever call.
Like I said, it's not gonna be popular.
If I get a call out of the blue, it better be for a very good reason, or else you're a psychopath in my eyes.
Damn it! I don't have my phone on me. Whenever Manny says that, I always call him immediately. It's really funny to me. But my phone's charging.
I know. I mean, there are a lot of people who are serial texters, and I understand it. But man,
it's just like.
Or the voice memos is a thing now. People send like long voice memos. It's like, oh
that's more acceptable. But like, who do you think you are to just like come out of the blue? Well, I might be doing something. So I might be busy.
Edward's perspective here, it's interesting because he's advocating for people to touch some grass, and I don't, I'm not opposed to that.
For people to actually like
communicate with each other.
Communicate more directly.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of stuff that gets lost in sort of text communication and things like that.
Yeah, tone. Tone's a big one.
Yeah, you lose tone, you lose intent, and I think, people, if you will, get triggered by reading things when maybe that's again not the intent.
I totally understand, and that's why I'm okay with like texting, "Hey, you free to talk at this time?" Yeah, sure, but call me out of the blue.
See, that's within a couple, that's within a couple sentences. You'd be okay, but it's not like, "Hey, I've got this thing to ask you. Tomorrow night when we're doing this, what do you think if we blah, 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 blah." And then second scenario, how about this? Like, why don't you just call me and ask me?
You might be busy. I don't want to like intrude on whatever you're doing.
I'm not gonna answer.
But like, aren't you a doctor? What if like you're doing, I don't know, open heart surgery, and I'm just like giving you a call like, "Hey, you want to hang in the next 2 hours?" Probably not the best time. I'll probably just text you on the off chance that you might be pretty busy.
Well, that's where you're like, "Hey, are you free to chat right now?" Like, if you don't get a response, like, probably not. Either that or they're ghosting you.
Oh man. Oh god.
Oh man. That kind of takes me back to a time like sometime last year where I was taking a shower and I got a call from my mom, and I'm like, I'll just answer later. And then I get 2 more calls from her while I'm in the shower, and spend like 5 minutes. And I pick up and I said, "So, anything up?" And she just says, "No, I just want to see like how your day's
going."
going."
Just hung up and threw the phone in the shower.
Honestly, I was very tempted to.
Mom, I don't recognize you as my mom anymore.
Psychopath.
Use very colorful language.
I was just like,
I
almost went ballistic.
Aww.
Yeah, that's true, but you also do it through text.
So what would happen, Manny? Manny, what would happen if your mom tried calling you while you had your headphones in? I think is that a death sentence? Because they're interrupting you with a phone call while you have your headphones in.
That's not as bad as if like I'm in person, or like if it's like in person. To me in person's worse.
Goalpost #moved. The goalpost has been moved. Oh, that's good. That concludes our If I Were President segment. I love that one. So we're just got a couple of memes to show you guys, and then we're gonna give some subs and end it. So it is time for the memes of the day. We have our please continue to post memes in our Discord. We have a memes channel that tends to be the most popular channel in the whole Discord, and honestly, I'm not gonna complain about that. I think that's hilarious and fitting. So because memes are how we communicate these days. It just is what it is. So scroll up a little bit. Some of these are related to Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and some of them have nothing to do with it at all. So what is this one? See, 6,000 spears, less than half of what I hoped for. Hey, check it out. I found 2 more. 6,002 spears, more than half of what I hoped for. That's really dumb. Okay. What is this? Oh God. So Frodo is he sees the ring is pretty big and he just puts it on his dick. I see you. Oh no,
Wait,
please
what?
you stop it.
Wait. Oh wait.
Sauron the eye like sees him because he puts the ring on and he's like, I see you, and he's like, oh ew, God, no, stop it, Frodo.
Oh, so full blown cock ring. I see it now. Okay.
What is this? This is what I posted. This is, oh yeah, Amaranth, yeah. What are you laughing at? And she says, me or the computer fan. And it's like, some chump thinks that RTX is a fan. Amateur hour. Because she posts a picture of a graphics card. I really hope that's not real. Like, she's got to know a little better than that, right?
I mean, I think she's just trolling around. I think she knows.
I would hope so. Matt Corser posted this one. Ernie showing Kyle the reason he loses at X-Wing so often, and it's himself in the mirror. Fitting. Yeah, it's like there's got to be other reasons. Like, I just must be having bad luck or something. Hold on, where did Discord go? There we go. Well, oh, Discord, did you crash on me? No, we're good. All right, Matt Carey posted this one. Count Dooku saying, you can't, this is from Thor Ragnarok. You can't defeat me, Anakin Obi-Wan. I know, but he can. 900-year-old dyslexic spinning around like a fucking Beyblade on Ketamine. Is he dyslexic? I guess Yoda, the way he talks, I guess that makes him dyslexic. Apparently. That's a quality. That's from Reddit too, Manny. So that makes sense. Even as you said, not a cesspool.
That's a good quality meme.
Therapist, Home Stallone isn't real. He can't hurt you. Home Stallone. That's that Photoshop.
Odd. I hate that.
It's creepy.
It's awful. Home Stallone. This is from Mando. Back to the Future 3 1990, Doc Brown mistakenly goes back a long time and ends up in a galaxy far, far away. This action accidentally creates a religion known as the Mandalorians, a mistaken interpretation of the phrase man in DeLorean.
That's pretty good. I like that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Easter
that was
egg.
from Ryan Crocker. Let's see, scroll up if there's any more that I missed. There's another oh, Pedro Pascal's like, I will go with Frodo. All sorted, then stand down, everyone. Your services are no longer required. Come on, kid, time to go. Is that him from Game of Thrones?
Yep. I think so.
Can you imagine? What was it? There was one, it was like, everything in Lord of the Rings is the same, but Merry and Pippin have a sniper rifle.
That would definitely change how those movies went down.
Oh, God. Oh, that's too good. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to just gift a couple subs, and then we'll be on our way. It's getting late. Yes, please redeem I love that show. All right, let me go over to Twitch here so I can gift them. Let's gift 2 subs right now to our own channel. Nice. Here we go. Is there a way for me to edit the quantity? Do I have to do it 2 individual times? Sure. All right. Who gets the first? Who gets the first one? Planet Face Syndicate. What's up? And then our second gifted sub. I'm never gonna financially recover from this, I swear. Amazon is taking, I think. No, there's no way you get half that money back. That would be awesome, though, because then it'd be easier to get subs. And then Velvet Buddha gets a sub as well. Well, Edward, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope you had a good time. We'll be uploading the replay of this on YouTube here by the morning. Any parting words or shout-outs, my man?
Any shout-outs? I want to give a shout-out to the 505th Squadron. That's our local group here in Albuquerque. John Grasser, Oscar, Evan, Jacob, a lot of the other local folks, John, who are playing, who got me into the game, and is part of the reason why I'm traveling around playing at tournaments and meeting great folks like yourself. So X-Wing is just a great community, and that's the best part of X-Wing, right?
It is, for sure. Manny, thank you for being here. Any last
Happy to
words?
be here. Last words? No.
Any last words before I pull the trigger?
Tired. Thank you for watching. Yeah.
And yeah. Well said. Very well said. Very well said.
I like to consider myself as a pretty articulate man.
Yeah. Don't call Manny. Yeah. I will be calling Manny right after this and be like, hey, we had a good show. I hope you weren't in the shower with your headphones. All right, everybody. Lots coming up here for 312, including X-Wing on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Go ahead to our Discord weekly and there you go. Thank you for repping us, actually repping us instead of Manny. So, Manny took the day off representing.
I forgot. Yeah.
That's okay. That's all right, because I'm technically representing the Cubs right now. I don't have the X-Wing. Lots coming up for 312. We've got our interview with AMG TBD. We also have our event on June 3rd. I will post on our Facebook and Discord about that soon. That will be an official event. I will be streaming with Gold Squadron Podcast on May 6th and 7th at the Midwest Scrubdown. And last thing, our Launch Bay Next donation goal, we hit $700. So we'll be sending $700 to Andre Lind to support Launch Bay Next. So thank you all for donating. We had $500 in donations from the community, and I added 200 to it. So there is still time. I would say another day before I send that over to Andre. If you still want to donate and you want to get the swag for donating 50 or more, you can. So I just thought I'd let you guys know. Thank you all so much. See you on the weekend. Have a great week. Don't get into too much trouble. Edward, Manny, thank you for being here, and I will catch you all very soon.